Right, good evening. Today we're going to be looking at rogue decks. So what is a rogue deck? It's basically any sort of unique deck that made the top cut in a 100+ player tournament. So we're just looking at things that either fluke their way into the top cut or they're sort of weird anti-meta choices. So if you're interested in playing something kind of weird or a bit different, then check these out. I'm Scarnaddy. I make videos about the competitive scene in Pokemon TCG Pocket. If you enjoyed the video, maybe give it a like, maybe give the channel a cheeky sub, and let's go. So we've actually got a rogue deck which did incredibly well, going 9-2. Let's open up here. So it is Meowscarada, Pheromosa, Klefki, and Celebi. So Meowscarada's always been a good anti-EX pick, and because EX stuff is everywhere right now, seems a good shout, especially because it does 130 damage, which is enough to two-shot any Mega in the game. Also, we've got Pheromosa, who's does 20 and then 20 to the bench. Hitting the bench is incredibly important now, because it lets you Cyrus in the Megas, and then once they start taking damage, it's pretty much game. We do have one copy of Klefki here, which is basically it's a Guzma which just sits on your bench. And then also Celebi, which for 2 energy does 40 damage, but then also it de-evolves. Because a lot of people are playing rare candies, it means you'll just de-evolve to the lowest to the basic. And then Meowscarada is still quite fragile, but the Leaf Cape means you cannot get one shot by Blaziken, which is everywhere right now. And then we have, so 4/4, so pretty low down on the cut, but still, we've got Honchkrow. So Lantern, Honchkrow, Pichu, Oricorio. Lantern is basically you do 80 damage, and then your opponent's Pokemon is either, if you flip a coin, they're either paralyzed on the heads, confused on tails, so you've got double will because you want to flip coins and get the heads. And then you've got Honchkrow, which is really good like anti-Oricorio tech because it does plus 30 damage, plus 40 damage for every ability Pokemon on your opponent's board. So that means very easily if there's an Oricorio out, it's already doing 80. Decks like Suicune, Greninja, and Giratina as well, like they're all ability Pokemon. So they're just giving you more and more damage to the Honchkrow. And then Pichu, because the Lantern and also the Honchkrow is all neutral energy. Oricorio, because it's just a good wall. And then Mantike as well, just for extra. I guess the idea is they want to start with a baby and just start flinging energy back to the Lantern to get it out as quick as possible. Or get like a quick attack with the Honchkrow. Okay, with this deck going 7-2, this is Delcatty, Rampardos. So because you're running a fossil on one of the Pokemon, you're guaranteed to start with the Skitty. The Skitty does 10, and then maybe it does 40 on a coin flip, so that can be good for taking out babies in the early game. And then Delcatty lets you basically recur supporters. Skull Fossil, Cranidos, Rampardos. Rescue Scarf as well, so I guess they're assuming that the Skitty is going to get taken out and they just play it again. So Rampardos is really dangerous. Like I don't get how this deck did so well, just because you've got a 50 health Skitty just sat in the active slot. So unless you have the Rescue Scarf, that just goes away. Yeah, I don't understand how this deck went 7-2, because you've just got a fragile 1-pointer, and if you don't draw into the fossil, you're just done. Just want to look at this one because, actually, what did they do? They did 6-3, trying to make Gengar work. Double Ghastly with Astonish, so you're just discarding cards, which is nice. Haunter, and then we've got the baby Gengar with the Bother, which is nice because, I mean, between Chingling stopping items, Gengar stopping supporters on attack, like, seem pretty good. And then you've got Swellow, Mega Altara, like, you don't, because you only need the 1 energy for Gengar, you've got energy for pretty much everything you need. And then we've got, and also Gengar is a good answer to Oricorio as well, because you can just tap that for 50. And then Cyrus, because Cyrus is really good. May, because you need Maid basically to get into the higher evolutions. And then Cape and Double Rare Candy. So somebody trying Poison. So they went, okay, 5-3. Trying to make Toxapex. So Toxapex is basically Venoshock. So it's plus 70 damage, so it's 120. So it's basically a better Scolipede. And on top of that, you've got Poipole and Nagandel, which are really energy efficient hitters. And then if you got the Nihilego out as well, they start doing crazy damage. So May's quite good because you've got a lot of Pokemon in your deck, so you get more chances of pulling into what you want with Double May. Lusamine is quite good because it lets you put discarded energy onto either the Nagandel or the Nihilego. And then you've got Cyrus and Sabrina. So Cyrus, because you're not really one-shotting stuff, so they're probably going to retreat and then you just bring them back in. Okay, so you've got another weird one using some of the newer Pokemon. So this went 4-3-1. We've got Ludicolo, Ice-Q, Shaman. So in this one, you've got Ice Cube ideally to sit in the active slot, and it just ignores all chip damage. Like you either need to one-shot it, which you need like 120 from full health. You need 120 damage to one-shot it. Blaziken doesn't care about that. Shaman for easier retreats, and then Ludicolo is almost as good as something like a Meowscarada, because if you've got the 1, 3 or 5 cards in your hand, you do 120, which is pretty decent damage. And then you've got red, so you can do 120, 140, and that'll take out like Suicunes and stuff. So Cape, because you really need, like 140 is fragile with Blazikons around, so Cape helps out through that. So I played a few games with this one. It doesn't, I don't know, when it works, because the Ice Cube just doesn't die until you've got everything else set up. And then your opponent just has to deal with like 2 Ludicolos coming in and swinging. And stranger still, actually it was a 4-4 Porygon Z deck. So we saw, I think, a little bit of this in the Secluded Springs meta. Like it was like a rogue deck back then. Basically, the slowing beam requiring like an extra energy cost. It's pretty good because it means that babies have to pay energy, and suddenly like a lot of the 2-attack Pokemon require 3 energy, and that's an issue. So you got Porygon Z, 130 health is fragile, so you absolutely need Cape. The healing, I guess, helps a little bit against chip damage. And on top of that, you got Indeedee as well. And because of buggy evolution, you can get into the Porygon Z incredibly fast sometimes, which is handy because you're not playing Rare Candy in this deck. But you've got May, so that can help. And then lastly, we have, went 6-3, surprisingly, is a Victreebell deck. So this is double Bellsprout, double Victreebell, and then the Rare Candy to evolve it. 1 Chingling, 1 Celebi, 1 Pichu, 1 Oricorio. So the Pichu, Oricorio, Celebi, they all kind of make sense. Celebi's good for going into stuff like Blaziken. Victreebell, I mean, here's the thing with Victreebell. 140 health, so you absolutely need a Leaf Cape to live through a Blaziken. I think the main issue I have with this deck is it just doesn't do enough damage, because the Victreebell doing 60 for 2 just doesn't, like, yes, it can drag stuff in. I mean, it's fine for dragging in like basics. So that's one thing. If you get into the basics into the Victreebell quick enough, and you start picking up the basics, or Celebi like de-evolve something, and then you can delete the basic with Victreebell. Like, I can see things work in that way. But I did have a few games for this. I found that the Victreebell, sometimes the 60 damage just isn't enough. Like, you've got no serious damage in this deck, and that can be a real problem. Okay, let's look at some of the weirder decks from the weekend's tournaments. Again, if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you there.